Hey everyone, John here from the Doodler Embroidery Legacy, and I just wanted to give you a couple of quick tips with regards to Design Doodler. I had a couple questions come in, one with regards to objects being clean. The person who asked the question said that there wasn't enough nodes within the objects being created, and how can I add nodes? And that is a little bit of a two-sided question, because yes, you can add nodes, but the other side is you might not necessarily have to. The other question was with regards to creating a fill stitch and having it automatically outline with a running or a satin stitch, and I'm going to touch on both of those, so stay tuned. Now, to answer the first question, I'm going to doodle some really small written text, and you're going to see when I write it how the lines look nice and clean, and then how when it generates the stitches it doesn't look quite so clean. And I think that is the issue that the person was having. So at a 6:1 scale, using my brush tool with my running stitch, I'm just going to write the word coffee, and I'm going to make sure that it's pretty small, and at 6:1 that's what I see. Now you might have noticed that when I was writing it, it was writing it in nice round curves and there was no issues whatsoever, but when it generated the actual objects, that's when things didn't look so clean. Now when I go to my settings within the program and I click on the little three dots down on the lower right side, I can see that I have my view stitches. Now if I view outlines, and you can see that the outlines are there now, and if I get rid of the stitches, you can also see that it is just as clean as I originally wrote it. So if I were to select that object, and when I select it and I put on my nodes, and I can see my nodes, and if I go to put on my actual properties, well, that's selected, I can actually either select a node and move it, or I can add or delete nodes. So to answer the question, yes, you can add more nodes to an object if you want to. So if I hit add and click on this object, I've just added a node. But you'll notice that it really didn't change that shape at all. And that is where I think people are getting confused, because they're drawing nice clean lines and it generates stitches and then it doesn't look quite as clean. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to close that. I'm going to click on that object. I'm going to put my stitches back on so that you can see them. So now I can see my stitches are there. I'm going to select that entire object, and instead of trying to worry about changing the nodes, I'm going to go into the properties of these stitches. And when I look at these stitches now, I can see that the stitch length that I chose was 3.5 millimeters. Now you have to remember that on a really small object, when I go and ask for a 3.5 millimeter stitch length, it's going to put stitch penetrations down and try to determine the best way to, define that original path, which we can see nice and clearly there, but to define it with stitch penetrations. Now you'll notice when I take this, and instead of doing 3.5, I'm just going to do 0.5 millimeters between each space, which is a very, very short stitch. Your machine can do it, but it's in that really, kind of red danger zone. But when I hit that enter button, you're going to see that now I have a nice, smooth stitch that's following all of the original lines that I created. So if you're creating objects and you don't like necessarily the way it is assigning stitches to the lines that you've created, it's more of an issue of stitch length as opposed to going in and trying to add or change the actual nodes. Now to answer the second question, can you automatically outline a fill stitch with a run or a satin? The answer is no, not at this time. It is more of a complex issue, and the reason why is if I choose my brush here and I'm going to choose my actual fill stitch, and I'm going to do a shape, and I can then just come in and define any shape that I want, and when I let go it's going to define an actual fill. Well, that's easy enough, and there is a possibility that in the future we might be able to add in a feature where you could choose a run or a satin stitch to define around the same shape. That wouldn't necessarily address the issues of pull compensation on the direction of the stitches, but it would be something that could be feasible. The only issue is when we do get into something like a fill shape, and if I select that fill and then I start to add holes into that fill, and I start to generate a shape here where I'm doing a little circle, I generate that hole, and if I want to do that again, I'm going to select that object, I'm going to put in another hole, which I'll do a triangle at this time. I'll hit that enter. When I do objects like this within a fill stitch and I start adding holes, this is where it's going to get a lot more complex, because you have to determine whether you're going to be adding those run stitches on the inside of the holes or just the outside, or a combination of the both. So it's something that is not impossible, but it is not within the Doodler at this time. It might be in the future. I'm going to put it on the wish list, but if you do want to go in and create a satin stitch around this object right now, you will have to go in, choose your stitch length, choose your satin stitch, and I would need to go into this object now. You would need to go around the outside of the shape, and you would draw an outline around the shape that you originally did, and then when you get back close to where you ended, you could let go. I would simply select that shape and close it, and that's the way I would create a satin stitch around a fill within the Design Doodler. So I hope this was helpful and will assist you in getting better detail on the fine details in your designs, and also how to outline your fill objects when you've created them. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.